Welcome to the TROWE podcast, your ultimate destination for mastering the world of real estate and mortgage with an unwavering and huge emphasis on maintaining the right mindset. You know, in this ever-evolving landscape of real estate and mortgage, success absolutely requires more than just industry knowledge. It absolutely demands resilient and positive mindset. I'm anxious to share with you my experiences, storytelling, special guests. Let's get started. Focused on thinking, retaining, obtaining, and winning every single day. That's what TROWE stands for. Hold on tight. Here we go. Okay, well, welcome back to, another episode of TROWE. Think, retain, obtain, win every day. And I can't even begin to express how excited I am about who I have in the studio. Not on a Zoom call, but in the studio. I have Mr. Craig Davis with Ascend Experience with an X.
With an X.
With an X.
I'm
Craig,
way too cool for the E.
Welcome to the Sales Success Studio, my friend.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. I've seen it, on the the box of the screen for so long. I just,
Yeah, so
to finally be invited.
Yeah, okay.
Well, okay.
You've been invited. By the way, I'm already in trouble, by the way. I showed him through the house and didn't offer you a glass of water. So you had to ask.
I'm just saying there's a learning moment for everything.
But now you have a beer. And
a learning moment. That should have been the very first thing.
So let's dive into this here a little bit. Number one, a little bit of history. You and I go back a couple days anyway, right?
Yeah, a few.
And so you have have you always been in the mortgage business?
Since 2001.
Yeah, okay. So same as me, I suppose, right in there. But our paths crossed. When did you come down to California from the Pacific Northwest into?
So I came down in 2016 to the Bay Area, but then I came into the Folsom area in 2018, and I think that's officially where we first really kind of met and sat down. And I remember it was at go figure, it was at some bar with Dave Striplin and Barry and you and I, and we sat down, for kind of our first sort of meet.
Yeah, that's right. And the rest is kind of history. So then for me, because it's important for anyone listening to understand how big of impact you've had on my life, both personally and professionally. So let me get that out of the way. Thank you.
Okay, I'm listening.
So we're doing our thing. We become Finance of America. Things are expanding. Your role changes there on a much larger scale. And you let me know that there was a job opportunity one day to come join the ranks with you, if you will, at the national level. And we did that. And honestly, that changed kind of the course of everything for me from there on out. So here I am. But it was during that time that you impressed on me. You're like, we've got to come up with a communication cadence for the sales team nationally. This is a big task, by the way, at the time. And it's like, what was that cadence going to look like? And that's pretty much where the Sales Success Studio started.
That's right.
Right then and there. That's and so I would sit here and do the videos. And, of course, our very own Katrina, who is already excited that you're here, really helped promote that as well. Yeah. So it's cool. So awesome.
Yeah. I mean, look, this gives me goosebumps, right? I mean, my whole joy, purpose, and passion, right, is helping others succeed. And what you don't know is that, I had you pegged for this opportunity before I even knew it was an opportunity, right? I mean, and so there's a great quote. I think it's actually a Steve Martin quote, like, be so good they can't ignore you. And your talents and your communication skills and your natural talent with that. The thing is, like, you have your skills and your technique, right? And I mean, you got all the skills, but it's your technique, and it's that talent, that natural ability to communicate in an authentic, energetic, passionate way. And so, as we were looking at how we can create better engagement with the sales force, and really, it was a no-brainer. I mean, it was an obvious,
It's funny because I remember being seriously nervous about that.
I know you were.
Opportunity and / challenge, if you will, and it really did change the course. But let's talk about that communication thing here for a second, because times have changed, right? I mean, sure, you're sitting in the studio, but by the way, it's important to note that when we started that role at FAM, COVID launched. Remember that? We're ready to go out of the gate, start visiting offices. Let's go. Let's do rallies. And then lo and behold, everything pretty much goes on lockdown, which might have you'll remember me maybe saying this to the entire sales team was there's actually good things that's going to come out of COVID. And for me, what it was all the people in sales in particular that shied away from using video, with it, whether they knew it or not, were learning to do everything on video via Zoom calls. So we came out the other end of this thing with, by the way, I'm here to tell you, at least with my current team, everyone's doing video. Like, they're not afraid of it anymore. You know what I mean? So from a communication strategy standpoint, it really helped a ton. But we don't have to spend any time here, but we all know things change with FAM, and then we all go our different ways. And you might remember I sent everybody at the sales team a video saying, you know, I want to encourage everybody to think this happened for you, not to you. And honestly, as you sit here in the studio, and of course I'm here, that probably couldn't be any more true. Because do you think if you had stayed at your role in FAM, everything was going on, would you have ever ended up going down the path of what you're doing with coaching today? Or
Probably not right now.
No, because you'd have been occupied, right, on a much larger scale.
I'd been occupied on a much larger scale, and if I'm being really honest, I would not have had the courage to break away from that role to start my own on my own. I needed a break. And I remember you sent that because, look, my biggest fear in life was losing my job.
Right.
And you're talking to the guy who just got over cancer. That wasn't my fear.
Double
I
whammy.
knew I could conquer that.
Yeah.
At least once I got my perspectives and my mindset right. And that's part of, what a presentation I give, for example. But I remember, because when you did say, guys, let this happen, or this is happening for you, not to you. See, it's those little perspective shifts that can dramatically change the lens you look through. And I needed that at that time, especially, as a leader for so long. And, and I love it. I mean, my passion is in leadership.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm the one providing that perspective and helping others. And again, that feeds my purpose. But in that moment, I was the guy who was knocked down. I was down.
Yeah.
I was down, and I didn't know how to get up. And there were circumstances around that time. Look, like I just said, I just got over cancer treatment 6 weeks prior. And then I faced my biggest fear and lost my job. So that was a huge perspective shift that I needed in that moment.
And I was looking for my phone so I could start my timer here, because folks, I'm here to tell you, if I don't set a timer, Mr. Davis and I are about to talk for the next couple hours.
I just cut it up into 3 podcasts.
Right.
Well, let's just keep going.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing to me about what you just said is you weren't afraid of cancer. You were afraid of losing your job. That's incredible. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I think for probably some people hearing that, now some people might get that and some people may not. And, and everybody, and rightfully so. Well, listen, health is the most important thing. And if you could get over cancer, the job doesn't matter. And yeah, totally on the surface.
Yeah.
But it does, because how else do I provide for my family?
Right.
How else do I, identify with what I'm doing and who I am? Now, fortunately, my cancer, I had stage 3 colon cancer, as you know, and once I got my arms wrapped around what it was, and once I understood what treatment was to be,
right.
Which was, I think I had 3-4 months of chemo, and I think another 2 months of radiation and chemo, and I was supposed to have surgery. But for me, I was able to compartmentalize that, and I was able to detach from that. So, notwithstanding when when the doctors told me I had cancer, I thought I was going to die.
Right.
For a little bit, I'm going to die. I looked at my wife
Probably
and daughter.
Natural reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. But my point here is that once I got my arms wrapped around it and understood it, I was able to detach. I was able to get my mindset right. And my perspective became about endurance. And my perspective became, because as you know, my formula, right? It's attitude plus action equals you. Right? You've heard me say that, right?
Love it.
It's the only 2 things we can control. And so I just went into management mode. And so I looked at my treatment plan as such. And instead of attitude plus action, it was mindset plus medicine. Medicine was the action.
Right.
Mindset, that was the hard part.
Right.
That was the hard part. So, my point there is I was able to manage through that.
Yeah, well, I think that actually either comes very naturally to people or it doesn't. I think, well, we'll get to a book that both of us are reading right now, but it very much speaks to that type of thing. But, all the time that we work together, that was always your first reaction, was to focus on what our mindset was on a particular issue. By the way, we both are in the mortgage business, so we have our share of issues, right? Right. It's just a matter of the mindset. And I mean, you and I have dealt with all of it, and you, and probably even a larger scale, with loan originators or branch managers. And of course, right, rates have gone up. By the way, remember when they were complaining that rates went up to 4%? What do you?
Would I not go back to that?
Right. Yeah. Now they'd be begging for it, right? So, yeah. But I'll never forget that your perspective was always, wait a minute, take a deep breath. Let's solve the problem, basically. And
I love that. Just solve the problem, guys.
Yeah.
Let's just solve the problem.
Yeah. It's so awesome. And let me ask you a question, Craig. Your Ascend experience, yes, you're relatively newer to doing that, right? This past year, I'll say right in there. But weren't you also involved in doing something that you called street level leadership?
Yeah.
And so the reason I remember that is it resonated with me, because I'll never ever forget when I took that role at FAM. You made the comment that one of the reasons you felt it would work so well is because I was one of them. Mm-hmm. In other words, I wasn't a corporate guy in a suit running around saying do this or do that or else. I'm in the trenches right along with the rest of them. And I've never forgotten that to this day. My number one concern is, in fact, the sales team. Mm-hmm. Support team, of course, too. I don't want to shy away from that. Got to take care of them.
But I mean, all players.
Yeah. So that has to be pretty much how you're approaching your coaching.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, not just the mindset thing, but really from a street level perspective, like almost dare I say it makes sense? Does anything make sense? I don't know.
I mean, it's how we make sense of it, maybe. Right. But I mean, and that was always, it still is my philosophy. It's about street level leadership, everyday leadership, right? Yeah. And you're a street level leader. I'm a street level leader, right? And even though our roles may shift and change, but our mentality is, servant leadership,
Oh, that's a great way of saying that.
Yeah, and in my philosophy, and certainly through my my tenure in leadership, and my belief is that everybody is a leader despite their title, and especially for originators, but even going beyond, anyone in operations. I don't care if you're working the front desk. I don't care if you're cleaning the toilets. I don't care if you don't even work. Everybody is a leader, because leadership is a behavior, not a title. And when you look through a leadership lens, how the world can change. How would you approach your opportunities if you were the CEO of your business? Right. How would you approach your communication? How would you approach your team? Yeah. How would you approach your curiosity for new opportunities, or the necessities to persevere? Because innovation happens in the perseverance of an idea. Right? Innovation's not the idea itself. And that's where people can sometimes get lost.
That's awesome. I feel like I should do the post-production on this and show like a big,
well, I expect
mind blown.
Well, first of all, where's the sound effects? You said you got a mixing board over here.
I do. So. Actually, yeah. Well, we should have put the headphones on.
Well, I expected like a round of applause when I first got introduced or something. Oh, it's okay. There's still time.
You know what? I'll do.
Hit it in post.
Welcome, Craig Davis.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Is that better?
Yeah, I didn't hear it, but I'm sure it's louder.
Well, if we put the headphones on, but it's just you and I here, so it's like we can get away without the headphones, unless you want the full effect.
It's good. It's
all good. That is incredible how you just said that. And so you had made a comment to me, oh gosh, I don't know, probably a couple months ago, regarding the difference between leadership and management. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what you said? I want to say one pushes and one pulls, but I don't want to screw it up.
Well, hey, you know what? Good sign of leadership is you're willing to screw it up, right? Right. Yeah, I mean, look, I think in the most simplest, right? And I'm talking simple definition for everybody to understand. A leader pulls, a manager pushes. Yeah. Right? And look, there is a time and place for both. And we have to wear both hats. You can't just pull. I mean, every leader has management responsibilities as well. Sure. And every manager has leadership responsibilities as well. And going back to everyone's a leader despite your title, I mean, if you're an originator and you're listening to this, or if you're a realtor and you're listening to this, or whatever, you have to lead around you. You have to lead up, right? You have to lead who you're working for. You have to lead who you're guiding. You have to lead your clients. You have to, so, and in your personal life, you may have to lead your household, right? And so again, going back to the lens we look through. But if you think about when is the opportunity where right now I might have to pull someone with me. There's communication. There's maybe, why does this matter? Why does it matter? Yeah. I mean, that is really, really important. And then other times I got to push, right? And there's maybe accountability in that. There's maybe something more tactical in that, right? And we got to wear that hat. And look, and other times, take your hands off the wheel and let autopilot happen. Let other people drive that, right? And that might be more awareness, right? And I talk about that, with people I coach and whatnot, because most people I coach are in a management or true leadership role, but understanding that, look, you don't have to control everything, right? You have to understand the hats you got to wear. Sometimes you got to lead, sometimes you got to manage, sometimes you just got to be aware of it.
So with the folks you're working with currently and the new ones you'll work with, what are you getting a sense for? Are they all primarily mortgage based?
No. I mean, obviously with my, tenure in mortgage and my, that's my influence zone. So I would say probably 80% of my clients are in mortgage. And I have some clients actually in the government space. I have one client, he is in the mortgage space. He's actually an AE. He's a professional, or he's a former professional baseball player, which I think is really, really cool. I love digging into that and pulling on some of those threads with them.
So I want to pick on the folks that are in the mortgage space because that's what I'm most familiar with, of course. What are you hearing from them or feeling from them? What are some of the biggest pressures we have right now?
Yeah. I mean, look, I would say when I get underneath the challenges, people are stuck on the hamster wheel. Look, we get it, right? I don't have to diagnose them business, right? We understand. I think there's a challenge with a large population that they may, or you may know what you need to do, but you're really challenged in how you need to go do it. And whether it's motivation or maybe it's more tactical, what have you. And so I've had a lot of clients, who has engaged with me because, look, there's an immense amount of free content out there telling you what to go do. Right? You don't need me to tell you what to go do, but you might need me to help you actually do it, to help you optimize. And that's where a lot of my clients have been seeking me out to help them go towards that new opportunity, to reduce stress and seek clarity, right? To help strengthen what I call your success foundations. And so, and it's really, really, I mean, again, I get goosebumps because this is what fills my energy. This fills me up. And now that I've been doing this now long enough, I have reflection. Yeah. I can see the success that my clients have had. And the biggest thing that I start off with, with my clients is, and I'll say this to everybody, focus on the little, not the big.
Right.
Small little behavior shifts. Because we want to kind of adjust that compass towards this new opportunity. And there's a lot of ways I can help with in terms of, at least identifying it. How do we get to it? What are the steps to get there? All that stuff. But this is about small, not big.
Do you find yourself in, I don't want to say a situation, but kind of a mindset of do these certain things daily or however many times a week or, almost like things repetitively to become habit forming?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. But it's not me telling you what those are.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, look, we work together to identify what it is. Right. And certainly I can offer, advice or your sort of consultation, but this is really more about your construct, not necessarily mine. But what I do focus on, like, for example, I talk about what I call your optimization zones.
Okay.
And that's a way that you can look at your day to organize your day. And I look at your day and you really have 3 optimization zones that I help identify. And think about it, right? Like, so often you have to balance your proactive and your reactive.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So let's just identify that as those are 2 of your 3 optimization zones. You have your proactive zone. That's your pro zone, right? Prospecting, projects, what makes you a professional, right? So what are your objectives for the day? And the point is, when you're in that zone, how do you get into a flow state, right? Like the current is running. You ride the current or fight the current. So get in the optimization zone and ride the current. And that goes into habits, right? what do you do to get yourself into that? So if you have to prospect every day, right? Which many of us do, right?
Yeah.
Anyone in sales certainly does.
Sure.
Well, sometimes it's hard, and we have call reluctance, or I don't know who to call. There's all these different things. Well, so we get into our optimization zone. So, okay, prospecting is a part of that. So what do I need to do to get my mindset in to that optimization zone? What do I need to do during that time? What are my steps to achieve prospecting, right? We break it down. We chunk it down. We make it simple, easy. And what's my time? All right, 1 hour, I'm prospecting, right? But I've also done the prep rip. I know who I'm calling. I know what I'm saying and all this other stuff. But here's the killer. It's what I'm doing that's really important, but it's also what I'm not doing that's more important. I'm not checking my emails. I'm not checking social media. I'm not getting distracted because that then goes into your reactive zone. So you're able to switch to your reactive zone after you complete this proactive zone time. Then you go to your reactive zone. And look, this is your react to your daytime, right? And this is where you're checking your emails, responding on conditions, following up on stuff. These are your to-dos and your tasks. And it doesn't mean this is just linear, right? It might be, hey, I got an hour in my proactive zone. I'm going to tackle this project or this prospecting or whatever it is. And then I'm going to go to my reactive zone. All right, I'm not going to tackle that for a half an hour or whatever the right time frame is. And then you might go back.
Yeah.
You know, whatever the case is, you figure it out. But the point is, I want you fully in a flow state for each one of these zones. And then your third zone, which is very critical, I call it your oxygen zone.
Okay.
We need oxygen to live. We need oxygen to thrive. But do we purpose towards it, right? So this might be your mind, body, soul time. Are you exercising? Are you getting movement? How are you connecting, right? People meditate, you go for a walk, whatever the case is. Right. You might need a little bit of clarity time. And by the way, this doesn't mean you have to block off an hour. It might be like, okay, I just need to think for like a minute. I just want you conscious that, okay, you need a little bit of think time. What do? You're in an oxygen zone for, it might be a minute. Take a breath. Roll the shoulders, move the neck around, maybe get up out of your chair and go outside, get a little vitamin D, go make yourself maybe not a cup of coffee, but maybe a tea, so you see what I'm getting at?
I do.
So, and then, then I also call, within your oxygen zone, you also have balance time, right? There's just life, not work. Right. And balance doesn't mean 50-50. It just means you can't fall off.
Right. Right.
And so by acknowledging that, what it does is it brings these things to the front of your mind. It makes us more purposeful. It makes our actions more optimized to be able to tackle our day. And again, my entire intent here as an optimization coach, which you can see why I call myself an optimization coach.
No doubt.
Is to make it easy, not hard.
Yeah.
Little shifts on purpose. Right. So, and I have a 1-page optimization planner that I offer to anybody. So anybody listening, just go to my website. I don't know, put it in the notes. Yeah. So yeah.
I'll get it all listed.
Yeah.
Do you find in any of that thought process, those exercises, is there a way to practice that? Or just by doing a little bit of it, is that the practice? Then it becomes more of a...
Absolutely.
The reason I ask that question is, of course, I have a long history of being a football coach. I often compare coaching football athletes to no different than coaching professionals. And in my case, mortgage professionals, right, as a sales leader. And it's interesting when you break down the numbers that during a football game, that football game is 4 quarters at 12 minutes each, right, if it's in high school, or 15 if it's in the pros. And the actual play time on an individual athlete is tiny. It's minute compared to how much practice time they took to get there.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and you might remember a post I had a couple months ago where I made the comment that someone said to me that maybe in your case it's not the players. Maybe it's time for a different coach. Now, actually, it kind of took that personal. Sometimes that might be true, but nonetheless.
By the way, I disagree in this case.
Well, so what's interesting about that, though, is you can be the greatest coach on the planet. I actually, in my video, I think I said it wouldn't matter if I was Vince Lombardi. If my players did not consciously make a decision to be coached, it wouldn't matter how good a coach I was. Right? I could put in as many plays as I want. I could do. And so to me, that's very, very important to come in with really an open mindset, right? It's like you're making a true decision to be coachable, right? Because if it just goes in one ear and out the other and you're going to keep doing the same things, then, but that does take practice.
It does.
You know, I used to say to my O-line and D-line group, every single day we had the exact same drill. And it was the same 2-3 steps with their feet coming out of a stance. Well, they did it more time in a week in practice than they were ever going to do it in a game. But the point was is to make it repetitive and make it just automatic. It's just how their body was going to move. And I have to assume you're approaching it the same way, right? You do these things after a certain amount of time of doing that, it just kind of becomes automatic.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good perspective. And I think like, and my approach with this is more like, again, it's continually getting underneath these things, right? So it's not always like what you're doing. Sometimes it's more about how you're doing it or why you're doing it, right? And again, the optimization zones, like I was just talking about, you know, look, this can be literal. It could also be just conceptual. In the end, I just want you thinking about how to optimize your time and your actions. Yeah. So I want it to be your own. But underneath that, to your point, I do want and I do promote how to create habits within our day, right? So that allows us to make it easier. And I'll give you an example. Never in my life, and I consider myself a very successful, person in the mortgage business and throughout my tenure, and but my point is, I've never had an effective morning routine, ever. I mean, at the height of my career, still get up, struggle to get up. I mean, by 7, get my cup of coffee. Right. I'm on the computer by 7:45 or whatever. But like it's not fulfilling me.
Right.
Never in my life until now, because I put myself through my own coaching,
nice.
through my own construct.
Yeah.
And so what I've developed is, as part of those optimizations, so like I said, during your oxygen zone, I just became conscious of my mind, body, soul time. So I embedded that into my morning routine, which so many people talk about. I just never could actually get myself to do it. So like I get up at 6 now, right? Which I hate getting up early. But every morning I wake up and honestly, I say to myself, I'm being successful when ... I get up at 6. Like the book we just read,
yes,
and The Gap and the Gain. I got that from that book, and that has dramatically impacted. So I actually get up effectively earlier. And then I also highly recommend reading Atomic Habits, right? You learn about habit stacking. So I get up, right? Drink your water, brush your teeth, right? Those are just habits. But I stack the new habit of, okay, well, I'm going to stretch, do some push-ups, right? Make the bed, all the good stuff. I stack that on top of brushing my teeth. Existing habit, new habit.
Right.
And my reward is my cup of coffee. I don't drink my coffee until after
those things are done.
I've done some stretching, done some push-ups, wake up and all that other stuff, drink my coffee. And then, which I'm going to get you to start doing as well, I listen to my Audible book. Yeah. And I listen to a book I really, really enjoy. But I only listen to that book when I'm on my morning run.
Okay. So
I go out the door to go listen to my book. I just happen to be running.
Right.
So I'm running, 20 plus miles every morning now.
Sure.
And so now this has become my mind, body, soul routine, and I've never effectively been able to do that.
Yeah. So. By the way, funny little side note here. I think it's funny that you're just now that early morning person, but when you asked me to take that national role, what you never said was all the meetings start at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So sorry, TROWE, you're going to need to be on a Zoom call.
By the way, I won't be on it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not going to be on it, but hey, I'm glad you're on board.
Right. You got that one, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's all strategery.
Yeah, it was so funny. Recently, a group on the East Coast asked to have some meetings with me, and they're like, is that too early? I'm like, oh, come on, please. I'm like, Craig Davis trained me already. He's got me.
Hey, you already got your habits going. It's good for you. It doesn't mean I got to do it.
That's good stuff. Well, we talked a little bit about, okay, so the challenges that people are seeing in the mortgage industry right now. Yeah. And you said interesting, flow along with the river, right? You could either decide to swim upstream, swim against it, whatever the case is, or just flow right along with it. But what's interesting to me is how much our industry is changing right before our eyes, by the way. Mm-hmm. I mean, and by the way, we will come out the other end of this. You've heard me say it, and I've said over this last year that, again, this is the market. It's not a good market. It's not a bad market. It is the market. And our challenge is now to figure out how to best serve people within this market.
Absolutely. We don't control the market. We only control how we respond.
Listen, we will wrap this up. And by the way, you're going to come back, right?
All I need is an invite. All I need is an invite and a beer. I mean, that's pretty much easy to go. One thing, I think what I would love to impart upon everyone, and again, I don't care if you're an originator, I don't care if you're a realtor, anybody, right? Anybody listening, I call it your SOS, right? Shift happens, opportunities change, but success is a choice. So again, you might know these things, or you may not know what the opportunity is to go to, but it's a choice to be successful. So what is success for you in your daily actions, right? Not tied to some ideal future. And you also, shift happens, right? The market opportunities, but you also have a choice to also shift towards opportunity. But again, how? So you got to get underneath that. You got to be thinking about, what do you need to do to optimize your day, change focus, seek new opportunity. Listen, if you need help, for anybody in the audience, book a complimentary huddle with me. I'm happy to help you peel that onion back and see if I can help get your compass pointed to your new North Star. And by the way, coaching is not just for being stuck. You might be going good, but I can help you go gooder. Is that a word?
That it is now.
Yeah, right now.
Gooder.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
By the way, you've always been the man that comes up with incredible words and titles. I mean, you had 10 different titles for me. But
Jerry Ray brought up growthable the other day. I forgot about that one.
Growthable. Let's see. You called me opportunities manager, retention. What are all these things?
Loyalty.
The
opportunities hustler. I don't know.
You just had it all in there. Yeah. And what's interesting is, for anyone that may not know you, and there's probably a lot of listeners actually that are now meeting you for the first time, which is awesome.
Yeah, I hope so.
And so what's crazy is what most people don't know about you is talk about making a shift and going along with the stream. All the years that I've known you. Or
against it.
Right. Well, yeah.
But this is my flow.
But all the years that I've known you, I've never known you to be a social media guy. And I got to tell you, you got stories. You're on the Instagram. You're on the Facebook. You got.
Well, that is compliments to my marketing coach, Katrina Orlando, who every day nudges me this way, nudges me that way. And look, it's actually a good example because I don't like social media. I don't want to do it, right? Because I never had to, but I really do need to now, right?
Sure.
But the other thing is I want to because I've also reframed it because it helps me reach a wider audience and help provide my content, which I'm just trying to help provide clarity, right? So I feel good about that, right? But I'm a good case study of, okay, well, let's get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes. I love
Sometimes you just got to say, fuck it.
That's exactly
one
right.
way.
You know, it's funny because and a lot of my loan originators right now have really adopted video. A lot more are diving into social media, and they're finally at the point where they're taking those steps. It's cool. Well, a great example of that is if we can all agree that at the beginning and end of every day, you, me, loan officers, anyone in business, we're really in the business of helping people. Let's just narrow it down there. That's the net of it. We're in the business of helping other people. Well, if we can agree on that, then the task is how do we put ourselves in front of more people to help?
And it's a perfect way to create a magnet to your compass.
Yes, and that's where social media has proven to be so powerful. Example is last week, myself and another loan originator, we did a lunch and learn at our Elk Grove office. There were 8 real estate agents there. Okay, cool. Had some sandwiches, had a great hour, right? I just shot a couple of quick little videos, threw some music to it, put some text on it, said, having another great day doing a lunch and learn. Well, 600 and some people viewed that. Now, that doesn't make me an influencer, but what it did do is put me in front of 600 people in a room that only had 8. So, and I'm sure you're seeing the same thing, having taken that jump into social media. By the way, I got to get Katrina. I got to steal her away from you.
Well, I'm sure I can share. You're part of the fan base. Well, and you're spot on, right? And I think for anyone who's struggling to get into routine with social media, right? Again, look, go small, not big.
Right.
Create a little social media calendar. I just try to post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You don't have to do everything every day, right? I listen to, Josh Pitts, with Shred Media, right?
Yes, got his hat
There, yeah, right
somewhere.
on. Yeah, totally, right? Like, and if you look at all his posts, all he says is just be consistent.
Yes.
Just be consistent, right? So again, let's de-escalate the pressure of I have to do it. No.
Right.
And the other thing is stop saying I have to do it. Reframe that to I want to do it. And you made a really good point, which I want to emphasize. You said we're all in the business for helping people. The way I look at that is what you identified was your personal brand. You identified you created an identity. So everybody listening, you have a personal brand. You have an identity. What do people or what do clients say about you when you're not in the room? What do your referral partners say about you when they refer you an opportunity? Right. And how do we energize that? What do you want your identity to be, or your personal brand identity? Right. And I love Mortgage Coach as an example, right? Because I think of Mortgage Coach, not so much of the tool that it is. I think of it as a catalyst to promote your personal brand as being a financial expert. Because as Dave Savage says, your advice matters.
No question about it. You already know how I feel about Mortgage Coach. By the way, thanks for helping me get me to the dinner table.
We got First Home IQ.
We got First Home IQ. You got a Mortgage Coach sticker on your microphone stand.
TROWE, the ambassador, which everybody should check out First Home IQ and what Dave, and what you and I'll be a part of that too as well. And
incredible. It is very interesting, the shift that is finally really taking place. I think people in the industry are waking up to realize that the day of the loan officer is fading away, and the day of the mortgage advisor is more important now today than ever before.
And right, again, identity.
Yes.
Personal brand. Loan officer is transactional.
Right.
It literally, by the definition of being a loan officer. What if instead you were an equity manager?
Right. Yeah.
Right? I mean, what are you really dealing in?
Yeah, well, how awesome would it be, and you and I think have talked about this over the years, how awesome would it be if I went to one of my sales mortgage advisors and said, hey, how are you doing? How many loans are you going to close this month? I would absolutely love it if one of them one day would say, you know what, I currently have about $250 million in my pipeline that I manage, in my portfolio. Whatever.
Equity under management.
Yes, equity under management. What, are you kidding? I would love that because it totally changes your mindset.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to when I was first talking about everyone's a leader despite your title. What happens when you look through your own leadership lens? How do you look at your business? Do you look at it as just a transaction, or do you look at it as a portfolio?
Right.
I mean, these are subtle shifts, little perspective bombs, but for everybody, this might land with people differently, and you might have everyone has their own, but the point is pay attention.
Right.
Because right now, shift has happened.
Yeah.
And your opportunities have changed. And I'm going to go back to your success is a choice.
Yeah, I love that. By the way, I love that you brought up Mortgage Coach. We're going to tag Dave in this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we got to get Dave in the studio.
Love to do that. I would love to hook it up. Maybe I'll just pack it all up and take it to Momentum Builder with us.
It's a lot of suitcases.
Right. By the way, those chairs that you're sitting in are actually courtesy of Katrina Orlando. We actually picked those up. She picked them up for the sales rally that didn't happen.
Oh, God.
And I was on the phone with her a couple months ago, and I asked her if she ever got them. She goes, yeah, you want them? I'm all, absolutely.
One thing I'm so bummed out about, because, again, the end of our tenure at FAM was I missed that last year of being in person.
Sure.
Like, I missed the sales rally, because being on cancer treatment.
Yeah.
And so it was like, it really is just, it's unfortunate. That just sort of ended that way. But, look, whatever, it is what it is. It happened for us, like we talked about. Just not what we all wanted of how that transition was going to happen.
Listen, and I know you've read the book. You told me earlier you just read Renee's book, Amplify Your Influence. And I've attended, which by the way, was really a result of Don and Gino and our boys over there at Momentum Builder introducing me to Renee some years ago. You got me to the first one of those, by the way. Little plug for Momentum Builder. It's a great event, right? Dave Savage, Craig Davis, and Renee Rodriguez have had the most profound impact on me, both personally and professionally. I can't. You're here in person, so I can thank you personally.
I'm honored and touched, and the fact that I could even be in the categories with Dave and Renee, but the fact
it's mindset is really everything. And I think until I started working with you, I didn't really understand that. I didn't, it was easy to be caught up in a reactive world almost all day long. And, it's interesting. I used to joke around that I want to say it's George Strait. It is George Strait sings a song. I'm a fireman. That's my name, right? I used to address my job that way. Like, I'm a fireman. That's what I do. I'm a firefighter. I just run around putting out fires.
I used to call myself the Wolf from Pulp Fiction. I solve problems.
Yeah, that's right. So, but when you realize you can change that around and the power of a positive mindset and just approaching things, and gosh, even as simple as breathing, what are you kidding me? That's awesome.
It's the little, not the big. I'm telling you, right? And,
yeah.
Look, and mindset doesn't even have to, right? Mindset is just mindset. All mindset is what we do with the information that comes in.
Yeah.
It can be good and it can be bad.
By the way, you mentioned the book, The Gap and the Gain.
Mm-hmm.
You've read it. I've read it. You listened to it, I think. I'm still old school. I got to get on that.
You got to get on Audible.
I got to get on that Audible thing. One of my biggest takeaways was shutting your cell phone off 30 minutes, preferably an hour before going to bed, and taking the time to write down 3 things that you accomplished that day.
Yeah.
You literally will wake up the next day a completely different person. I was like blown away by that. I mean, the mind is an interesting thing, and you've actually done neuroscience. Like you're into the neuroscience aspect of things, way more advanced than I am on that. So you probably understand it a whole lot better than I do, but it really is interesting how it kind of...
It's fascinating.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, when I was mentioning earlier that my optimization planner, I have that in there, which is tracking your daily wins.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, my first win every day is I got up at 6. That's a win. Right?
For you, it's a huge win.
That's a huge win. I don't like getting up early.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? My natural wake-up time is 7:43.
It just happens.
7:43 a.m. is like Saturday, 7:43 a.m. is my natural wake-up time.
That just happens. It's
not 7:42, not 7:44.
All right. Well, Craig, you know what? We're going to wrap this up. Number one, I'm going to show everybody a sticker. Look at that. I got a fancy sticker. Ascend Experience.
It's a big, limited supply.
But check this out. I got a new hat. Yeah, right?
Yeah. And by the way, I think I'm going to have to sue Elon Musk because since he changed Twitter to X or whatever, listen, I had this logo first, Elon. Now, I'm good at this as long as, I call it my pension plan, but it might cost me a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You just file a claim. Maybe,
no big deal.
Claim the logo or something.
Yeah, right.
But, man, Craig, I can't thank you enough. Ascend Experience. I'm going to put the information on how people can reach out to you and contact you.
And for anyone in the audience, we'll put my calendar link out there. Happy to do a complimentary huddle for anybody out there for any reason whatsoever. Like I'm here to give, right? I just, that's my passion is helping you succeed, right? On purpose.
Well, I think we're probably going to have to start getting you in front of some groups of realtors and. For mine, I can control that, right? I have access to. So anxious to help you any way I can, my friend.
Yeah,
and gosh, thanks for coming to the studio.
Dude, I'm so happy to finally be here.
You know what? As we wrap it up, let's give. There you go, Craig. Yes.
Thank you, TROWE, and I'm absolutely fired up. I love the TROWE podcast. I love everything you're doing, brother, and I'm excited for all your future and your.
Hey, we're getting there. It's going to be fun. Well, gosh, thanks again. Look for more information regarding Ascend Experience. X with an X. Love it. Ooh, that's a new sign. What? Like,
but you gotta lift up with it because you're.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. It's just. Yeah. But everyone knows the deal. Think, retain, obtain, win. Every single day. Until next time, we're done.
TROWE!
See ya.